Welcome to Mindset Revolution with Raquel, where this week we're talking about how to recession-proof your life without compromise. So I'm really excited to just dive right into this particular topic. I'm guessing many of you have tried to create your dream life, but there always seems to be spinning plates, afraid something is going to break or fall apart as you focus on another area of your life. If you have failed at sustaining your change, it's not your fault. There is so much information out there. It's not necessarily incorrect, it's just incomplete. And that makes it confusing. This is what keeps you from success. If you have been concerned that you can't succeed in creating and maintaining an abundant life, your dream life, I want to encourage that you can do this. You just need the right person to explain it to you. The whole world wants to convince you that you have to hustle and compromise to get what you want. And I'm here to tell you they are wrong. I'm in Chicago in a very urban setting, so if you hear any background noise, just ignore it. That's just life. If you ever thought that people around you want to fail, in a way, you are right. Sometimes people do want you to fail, and this is because it forces them to look at their own lives to see where they are not living their full potential. And sometimes people want you to fail, not on purpose, but because they're afraid that you will get hurt or that you will radically change. And when you think about it, one of the fears that everyone has is that if you knew me for who I really was, would you still love and accept me? This is also coming out of the other thing I just mentioned. What if you radically change? And if you changed, will you still love and accept me? Will you still want to be around me? Will you still want to work here? Will you still want to be in this relationship? The difference with me is that I want you to succeed. I want you to see the manifestation of your abundant life because I believe that everyone was created to live that out. And as a Jesus freak, I really believe what he said when he said that he came to give us life and that life more abundant to the full until it overflows by all means excessive. The abundant life looks differently to everyone, just like balance looks differently to everyone. So that is why I'm here with you today. I'm going to show you a few things in order for you to start to manifest the kind of life that you were created to have without compromising who you are. So this is what we're going to be talking about today. For those of you who are new to this, you're going to get some practical steps and instructions in order for you to start to create the kind of life that you desire, whether you want to participate in the recession or not. And I always say that. People talk about the recession. I'm like, oh, I'm not participating. You don't have to participate. And this is how you don't have to. For those of you who are a little bit more advanced, you're going to get fresh aha moments and insights on how to not only create what you want, but sustain it. Anyone can show you tips. It's the sustaining that needs help. So my goal for this podcast is to show you things where you can be consistent and create accountability for the things that you say that you want in a way that is easy for you to do. It's easy for you to maintain and create momentum. The problem has been in the past for many of you, and this is it. It's a lack of consistency. Because people have made it too complicated to insert measurable actions. Again, going back to it hasn't been your fault. It's just too much information in a way that you can't actually run with it. Now, these are going to be small enough and powerful enough to help you to get to where you want to be. For those of you who don't know, I'll briefly share my story of where I moved from my job to my current dream job. I was working in the number one PR firm, independent PR firm in the world, and I really enjoyed working there. They honored me. They provided opportunities for me. I really enjoyed my staff and the people I worked with. in the local office and the international offices. And so in 2019, in April, well, end of March, early April, I just really felt this pull during my prayer meditation time that I needed to quit this really great paying, highly honorable job. And I was like, well, you've got mail, Jesus. If you want me to move, I'm going to have to get some confirmation. And this side gig that I'm doing, I'm going to have to make, similar or more money in order for me to leave this. And that's how we are, right? We're just like, we have this pull to do something different, to do something radically almost insane, and it doesn't make sense to other people, but you know that you're supposed to do this, but we still have that element of fear. And it was just like God said, bet. And I felt like I needed to resign by the end of June. And so that was my timeline. And the last 6 weeks of that, I got flooded, like almost over flooded with client work and things that were sold. And the amount of money I asked for actually got more than I asked for. And it was just like, I'm taking care of you. And I'm just really a proponent of that, is that what God calls you to do, he will pay for. And so even though I knew that, mentally ascending to that, the truth is, like everybody else, I was like, let me see. And God in his mercy gave me what I asked for in order for me to move. And so I've been doing that full time since, I turned in my resignation, and then I gave them 2 months because my hands were in a lot of cookie jars. And then after that, then I worked for them on contract for another 2 months. So officially I was completely done in October of 2019, but I had my last day in the office was like at the end of August. Because I turned in my resignation in the week of July 4th. It was my Independence Day. And for those of you who don't know, I'll briefly share my story from being a single mom to finding the love of my life. I have been married for a very long time, and it was one of those things where, and I truly believe that love is not enough. And like many couples, it was part of it was not being able to resolve conflicts in a healthy way. There were some other things happening in the marriage that made me want to unalive myself 4 different times. And then even though we loved each other, it was just not going to work. And so we separated, and we were still family. So we would see each other all the time because we have 3 kids together. And it was pretty much cordial until he passed away in 2020 at the end of May. And so after that, we already been separated for a couple years, but still very much involved in each other's lives. And then in 2021, in January, I started to date more, and I met my beloved, and he is everything that I asked for. And it was the same thing. Like before, I had asked, you've got mail, Jesus, if you want me to do this. And in this one, it was the same thing. I made a list. I studied about dating. I was asking the right questions. And for those of you who are wondering, how did I find the love of my life? I do have a free resource called The Appointed One at my site, which is yourdreamlife.coach. And so you go to the free stuff there. And there is what I did. I prayed a certain prayer that I created for 90 days. I was studying how to ask the right questions because I had clients asking me, how do you date? And I knew what to say, but I actually wasn't doing it because I wasn't dating. They're like, are you dating? I was like, no, but I know these are the questions you should be asking. And so being unafraid to ask those questions. And just a little sidebar there. Sometimes, women are afraid to ask the questions like, well, I don't want to interrogate the person. They're auditioning for the love of your life, and they should be auditioning you. I was not dating just to date. I was dating with the purpose. And because of that, I ended up pretty quickly at the end of around 90 days of praying that prayer and also asking questions as I was dating. Everything that you need to know is in that free packet. I remember my boyfriend saying, he said, I remember you asking those questions and I didn't mind answering them. And that's the thing. I remember one of the coaches, he said, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person when you're speaking out of your heart. And so I just remember that particular phrase in my head as I was, asking these questions in an organic way because I had them memorized. And that really allowed myself to be at the right place at the right time with the right person, doing things in the right sequence so that we were able to build a really solid foundation. So I encourage you to get that free resource. Again, it's at yourdreamlife.coach. And for those of you who don't know, I'll briefly share my story of how I created an atmosphere of love and security for my children. And especially with, when people are going through divorce or separation or, even a parent dying, there is this atmosphere that you can create for your children. And one of the things I learned very early on, and it's probably because one of my love languages is words of affirmation. And sometimes your love language is what you didn't get growing up. And so I didn't really get words of affirmation as I was growing up, which is probably why it was a love language for me. But I also recognized as I was studying more about how things manifest, the importance of words and how your words are your servants. And words of intention boomerang back to you. It's not thoughts that materialize. It's thoughts internalized. They materialize because then they get activated through your voice. If you have a thought, but you don't speak it, it'll die. It'll die off. But when you start to articulate those thoughts, this is a voice activated universe. We are created, as I said, I'm a Jesus freak, so I believe that we are created in the image and likeness of God, which means that we are created to function like him. And he never does anything without saying it first. Faith speaks, but so does fear. And fear is nothing more than faith that has been corrupted. And so we're drawing in the negative things. So for my children, I don't speak ill about them or to them. It doesn't mean that I don't correct them, but I never call them names, dummy, idiot, fool, anything else. I'm Puerto Rican, and sometimes people swear at their kids and try to do it in a playful way. I only speak words of empowerment. And even in the correction, I take my cues from Paul, where I tell them what they're doing well, and then I correct them, and then tell them something else that that they're doing well. And I remind them that they are loved and accepted. I have a almost 22, she'll be 22 in December, a 19-year-old and a 13-year-old. And I did not go through the horrendous things that I hear and I see like parents talking about on TikTok, and how they're miserable with their toddlers, they're miserable with their teenagers, they can't wait until they leave. And that is not the case in this house. When people meet my children, they're like, they are the most thoughtful, wisest, considerate young people I have ever met. That did not just happen. It happened because I understood the power of words very early on, before, as I was having children, and as I was studying even more recently about the power of our words. Words matter. And the more you honor your own word, you're going to see things manifest faster for you. So I wanted to go over some secrets for you. Secret number 1, clarity is power. So let me share a quick story. I had a client named Liz, and she really got a lot of clarity around her business when she changed her environment. So she was going from her day job to her dream job, and she had, bought a desk, and she's like, oh my gosh, I just know that if I can sit at my desk 1 hour a day, I can get a lot done and my business will really take off. And so I said, well, take a picture of it for me. And it was dull in comparison to how she dressed and how she liked to beautify things around her. So I just suggested to her that little change your environment. That doesn't even look like you. It was very minimalistic, which works for some personality types. But with her personality gift cluster, she likes bling and she likes beautiful and candles and all this other stuff. I didn't see any of that on her desk. So I said, okay, why don't you just get some beautiful things and beautify your space. And when she did, everything began to change. Why? Because the desk then became a place where it was calling to her. Sometimes we make things too difficult. The clarity gave her power, and the clarity was that she was trying to build a space for her to work, but it wasn't working for her because visually it wasn't really igniting her emotional state. So once that environment mirrored her personality gift cluster, she was able to really flourish and start to flourish in her business, because then she was spending the time that she needed to on her business, and now she's working full time on that. There was another situation where she has a really amazing husband. And again, this is where clarity is power. She was working in an MLM, which there's nothing wrong with multi-level marketing at all. You just have to find the thing that really fits with your purpose and desire and your current mission. And so she was a rock star, and she was winning all these like dinners and cruises and vacations, all kinds of really cool stuff, because she was really great at what she did. And I remember her and I were having a conversation about her husband, and we look at other people's lives, we're like, we want that. I want to be a super couple because everybody else who was in the top of the game would bring their husbands. It was mostly female dominated in this MLM. And she's like, well, I want to bring him, and I want to do this with him. And I said, but you are. See, she's very extroverted. He's very introverted. And I gave her clarity about her marriage based on what she had been telling me about him, and even what I had witnessed. And the truth is that he was loving her in his personality gift cluster. He's a great supporter. He would like clean the house. He would get the groceries. He would like make himself scarce. He would drive her around. He would get the things that she needed. He was, and still is, a super husband. They are a super couple. But because he didn't feel like going to these places because he really didn't want to go. She felt as though he wasn't being supportive. And so she started to, because her eyes were not placed in the right way, she started to then grow a little resentful and bitter. Like, I'm doing all these things, I don't feel supported. But in actuality, she was. And so after that conversation, she started to see her husband in a new light and really appreciating him for loving her in the way that he loves. And for her to really change her concept and the way she was allowing him to show up. And sometimes we need that, right? We need somebody from the outside saying, you actually have it a lot better than you think you do. And sometimes we're looking at the outside and we don't know what's happening in those people's lives. And so being mindful that, we want to be loved and accepted, and we need to allow other people to show up in the best way that they know how and love and accept them. And so once she started to do that, it was instantaneous. Her marriage got instantly better, and they're more in love now than they were before. Another client who was a stay-at-home mom with little ones, and then she had two other children that in two separate grammar schools. She was launching a business, and she's like, how do I get momentum? Sometimes people think that they know what they want and they are clear about it until they have a conversation with me. And then we get down to the actual thing that would make them happy and create a plan that they can actually implement based on their own natural rhythms and gift clusters. And this is exactly what happened with Maria. She said she was an early bird, and she had the same 1 hour thing. I think that everybody has this because of the power hour. Who is that? Tony Robbins talks about that. And she's like, well, if I can just sit still for an hour, but between my little one at home and my two other ones, outside, I don't know how I'm going to get these things done. And I know that if I can just get this hour in. And I said, well, what do you want from this hour? She's like, I want to pray. I want to meditate. I want to jot down the things I should be doing today. I'm like, all right. And then we were talking about her rhythms, and she's like, well, I can get up earlier. I'm a morning person. I'm a super morning person. And I would love that because my husband's asleep, the kids are asleep. And, if I leave it toward the end of the day when everybody else goes to sleep, I'm exhausted, taking care of 3 kids, running around, doing the house, trying to do the business. It was just too much. But she knew her own rhythms. And I'm like, okay, let's start, instead of starting with an hour, let's just start with 15 minutes. And she's like, that's not enough time. I'm like, it's plenty of time. So we started with 15 minutes. And then I said, okay, we do that for a few days. And then I said, if you have more time, great. If you don't, that's fine. But you're gonna commit to getting up earlier so that way you have your 15 minutes. And she's like, okay. And then within a couple of weeks, she was able to do that hour. And she was right. That hour of being quiet and being able to just receive for her from God and to just think through her day of the top things that she really needed to get done. She ended up doing everything she wanted to do and found that she had more time at the end of that. Now, I am a task animal. So if that's something that really speaks to you, and how do I make the most of my time without getting exhausted? I have a free resource called Task Animal, again at yourdreamlife.coach. You go to the free stuff, and it's one of the top things that people download. I really go into how to discover your own personality gift clusters and how you can leverage that to make the most out of your time. That way you're not hustling, right? Because you're, again, utilizing those things that you're naturally built with. I have another person, Celia, and she had actually put this on my Google reviews. She gave me a 5-star review, and she said, a journey through an incredible transformation, rainmaker on steroids. She did this 6 weeks of one-on-one with me. She said, I have so much to say. Raquel is an incredible coach. She uses her gifts to guide you. What I thought I wanted at the beginning shifted in the middle and ended with a huge aha. All you have to do is invest in yourself and do the work. I've learned a lot about myself and my true purpose. Raquel has been my earth angel. She's the real deal. I've been so lucky to have her as my coach these 6 weeks. I love you, Raquel. I love you, Cydia. Thank you so much for that beautiful testimonial. But that's why it's important, because the clarity is power, but sometimes we think we know what we need, and then it's not really that thing. So how does this help you recession-proof your life without compromising? When you get super clear on what you want, then anything that is contradictory doesn't hold any power over you. You won't even consider it because you're weighing the opportunity against what you said you want. The issue I have found is that people don't know where to start. For instance, maybe you want to monetize your reason for being, but you don't know what that is or how to figure that out. And on a recent podcast, I show you how to get that clarity. So check for the podcast that says how to monetize your reason for being. You can use that same exercise for other areas of your life. And then if you would like that, I probably will be putting a link to that wherever you're finding this particular podcast. Secret number 2, reprogramming your reality. So let me share a quick story on a client, Jay, who is a bodybuilding builder pro. And he literally had a huge mindset shift in 6 weeks. He lives in a place where he said it was limited opportunity. He's African American. And in this place, he just felt like it was very racist. Even though it was predominantly African American, it was still very racist, limited opportunity for people of color. At least that was his point of view and many people's experience. But only because that's other people's experience, it doesn't mean it has to be yours. And so him and I started working together and reprogramming his reality of seeing himself the way he was actually built. Now, again, because I'm a Jesus freak, I believe everybody is wonderfully and beautifully made. And when he's finally had that shift of, it doesn't matter that I'm older, it doesn't matter that I'm African American, it doesn't matter that I'm a man. There are things that I am inherently good at. I know what my purpose is. I know what my passion is. And I know that I'm already experiencing that I'm monetizing it. And so the only person that's holding me back is my own belief systems. And that's the tricky thing, is because we grew up with, everybody has lies that we believe. 95% of the time, we are not in free will. We are running out of those programs, those belief systems in our subconscious space and in our heart space. They actually work together. So what you identify with in your heart, how you see yourself, is the message that you are sending to other people. So what you hear about the subconscious is not incorrect, it's incomplete. Yes, it's putting you into automatic pilot. So most of your responses and your reactions are automatic. However, they also take a cue out of your own identity center, your heart space. We're told in the good book that to guard our hearts with all diligence, because out of it are the issues or the boundaries, the limitations of life. And so how you identify yourself, how you see yourself, plays a huge role on what is manifesting in your life. But this is how generational curses and bad karma is broken and reversed. Sometimes you just need the help from someone who's been there and knows how to do it. I have a friend of mine, client. Her name is Erica, and she's a rapid transformational expert. And she also left me a 5-star review on Google. And she said, Raquel is a manifestation master. She knows exactly how to manifest your desires and teach you in a simple but effective manner. I highly recommend her. So how does this help you recession-proof your life? You will never go any farther than how you see yourself, because seeing is believing. We've heard that before, but we have not understood it. Your internal sight, what you see, how you see yourself, what you identify with, your internal subconscious programs, what you hear, again, about the subconscious is not incorrect. It is incomplete. How you see yourself is where you're going to go. You cannot go any farther than how you see. So that's why it's really important for you to reprogram not only your subconscious, but also your heart space. Secret number 3, act like God. Words have power. So let me share a quick story. I remember this experiment with Dr. Emoto. You might have heard of it, where he had water and he froze it and he looked at the crystals, and then he said, beautiful things to one set, ugly things to the other. And at the end of the experiment, the one that was spoken to in a lovely manner looked beautiful, works of art under the microscope. And the things that were spoken to negatively, that group, looked distorted. We've also seen experiments with rice, and other people have duplicated this with very similar results, where they had 3 groups of rice, one that they ignored, they just didn't say anything to, another one where they actually just put a word, beautiful words on the jar, and the other one where they said negative things to it. And the one that was nothing happened, they didn't put any words on it, nothing really happened to the rice. The second set that had beautiful things said to it or spoken over it, when they opened up the jar, it smelled sweet. It had this sweet, beautiful aroma. And for the third set, the rice was black, and when you opened it up, it smelled putrid. Our words have power. They are our servants. It will boomerang back what you say over and over and over again. So if you do not want to participate in the recession, then say that you're not participating, or saying in spite of what's happening externally, the work of my hands are blessed. I am expecting to still be favored, to still be at the right place at the right time with the right people in the right sequence, to still be able to do good work and be paid well for it. If you know what the market is bearing and you know your own worth, then you can set your own price. People will pay it. There was another experiment talking about like how you can reprogram yourself, right? It was it basketball? Yeah, it was basketball. And so they had one set of basketball players. I think this was at the University of Texas. So they had one set of basketball players and they would just meditate. It was active meditation, which is imagine. So they would imagine themselves practicing playing basketball for 30 minutes every day for 30 days. And then they had another group, they would physically practice 30 minutes for 30 days. And at the end of that, the ones who were imagining, right, reprogramming themselves, seeing themselves over and over again, they outperformed the ones that physically did it. There is a mind-body connection. And when you are doing active imagination, which you do all the time, you're just not doing it by design, you're doing it by default. Your imagination is the commercial for the future. And so what you are playing, those scenarios over and over and over again, when you're activating your emotions with it, your brain, again, that's creating these programs for you, it doesn't know it's not happening. That's why when you were replaying an argument with somebody, how you can get pissed off all over again. Because your brain thinks it's happening again and you get even more mad because now you're feeding that particular instance as though it's happening all over again. You already know you've done this. You also know that when you think about something that was pleasing to you, you get all these happy, juicy chemicals all over again. Your brain is your medicine man or your drug dealer. And you get to decide what you're going to activate by what you're thinking about. And with these basketball players, the ones who thought about it, who actively imagined themselves outperform it. I think there was one with baseball, and I want to say it was the one in Chicago. And they had 3 sets of people. One set did nothing for the week. Another set practiced for 1 hour for the 7 days. And the other last set just did this active imagination exercise 1 hour for 7 days. And at the end of that, in only a week, the ones that practiced physically improved by 24%. The ones that practiced in their mind improved by 23%. That was only a week. The ones that did nothing, there was no improvement. No surprise there. But they were really surprised to find out that the ones that were doing it in their mind, being all in for that hour as though they were physically doing it, it was only off by 1%. What would have happened if they did that for 30 days? They probably would have outperformed the ones that were physically doing it, just like the basketball experiment. Without accountability and continual self-development, you will only go so far and then hit a wall. Before the sound barrier was broken, pilots called it the demon wall. I'm a transformational specialist. Once you break through with me, you don't go back. You can't. And that is the same thing with these secrets that I'm letting you know. The secrets work. They work for everyone who would do them. Clarity is power. And you might think you're clear, but if you were, you will be getting the results that you want sooner than later. Reprogram your reality. It doesn't matter that you might be in a group that's disenfranchised. I would be considered in 3 groups. I'm a single mom who's Latina and a woman, right? So for some people, I am a very disenfranchised group, but I don't see myself that way. And so consequently, people don't treat me that way either. And when you start to act like God, other people are going to have issue with that. Let them. That's them. This is your life. Your words have power. And you get to control 80-20 rule. Most of what's manifesting in your life, it's because one of these 3 secrets have not been honored or have not been really worked on. It's really that simple. So let me ask you a question. If you created the clarity that I talked about in Secret 1, reprogrammed your reality in Secret 2, started to align your actions to do the things the way God does them, starting with your mouth, do you think that you will be successful? Yes, you would. Just by activating these 3 secrets in your life, do you think that you can finally start creating this bubble that keeps you recession proof? Yes, you can. I remember, because I live these principles. When people were saying, oh, you can't get a job, I will get a job within 2 weeks. Oh, the market is not paying that, you have to take less. I always got what I wanted and then some. I never got what I wanted. I always got the and then some. Employers would pay me more, will find the budget to pay me what I asked for, because I showed up in a way that demanded it, not in a haughty way. I just knew that what I was bringing to the table was good, and that if they hired me, they would benefit, and they always did. That's why I ended up working for like over 20 years with one recruiter, because I called him my lucky charm, because he knew how to sell me. He knew me very well, and he knew that wherever anybody was going to hire me, I was going to be very, very good at it, because that was my intention. I wanted to be excellent. I wanted to do the best that I could. I wanted to come in and almost like recreate whatever their expectations were for that particular position. And that led me to the last corporate place I worked at, where I did exceptionally well. I really enjoyed it, but I enjoy this more. I really do. There's only so much that I can do in this short podcast in order to empower you with the tools, techniques, and insights needed to make permanent and radical transformation. So if it's okay with you, I'm just going to briefly share what I've done for this particular podcast to create a special offer to accelerate the activation of your abundant life. After only 23 days of working one-on-one with me, my client Heather let me know that everything was working out for her again. She finally feels a breath of relief. And have you ever been in that space? So much to be grateful for, and yet there was this internal and external pressure because things needed to change. So she came to me with a couple areas that she wanted to shift: her work, her family, where she was living. In as little as 3 weeks, she went from not having the clarity that she needed to reprogramming the reality that she wanted. Now, this is recently, when all this gas prices are up, where people are going to work, people are saying that they're hiring, but nobody's hiring. But she was able to step into her God-given design. So this is 30 days of intuitive coaching, and it's all curated with the simple action steps for you to take, transforming you from the inside out and creating the right atmosphere to cause your desires to manifest. Now, her experience is not unique. Anna Andrea, who is an award-winning event planner, said, I love all of Raquel's content. Her special guided meditations and daily insights have helped me level up. Plus, she's been my rock all these years, helping me to break out of my limiting beliefs around money and believing in myself. Limo Bank said, outstanding customer service and business coaching services offered for medium-sized companies and entrepreneurs. An excellent way to get the edge you need for success. And Angie says, it was because of the Prayer Academy and the Dream Life Academy that I ended up growing in my spiritual journey. I cannot recommend her enough. This 30 days with me is normally $333, but for this podcast, for a limited time, I have it as a holiday special. If you're super busy, this is perfect for you. If you want to start to shift your life, create new, lasting, powerful habits that will make permanent, positive changes, this is for you. And it's only $222. And this is not cookie cutter. They're curated to your needs, your wants, your desires in order to break the limitations right off your life. And I think that is frankly my favorite part. All my clients say the same thing. The things I provide are exactly what they needed. How did I know? Because I'm highly intuitive. I could only take a few at this price. So for those who would like it, please go to the holiday specials at yourdreamlife.com. Sorry, .co. yourdreamlife.coach. I should know my own website name, yourdreamlife.coach. So until next time, may God's riches and best be yours. Happy holidays.